There's nothing to be afraid of. We're not going to hurt you.
But once you understand, you'll be grateful. Remember how Teddy and I fought against it? Well, we were wrong.
You mean Teddy doesn't mind?
Of course not. She feels exactly the way I do.
Let us go.
Look, we'll leave town. We won't come back. We can't let you go. You're dangerous to us.
Don't fight it, Miles. It's no use. Sooner or later, you'll have to go to sleep.
I'll wait for you in the hall.
Miles, you and I are scientific men. You can understand the wonder of what's happened. Now just think. Less than a month ago, Santa Mara was like any other town. People with nothing but problems. Then out of the sky came a solution. Seeds drifting through space for years took root in a farmer's field. From the seeds came pods, which have the power to reproduce themselves in the exact likeness of any form of life.
So that's how it began. Out of the sky.
Your new bodies are growing in there. They're taking you over, cell for cell, atom for atom. There's no pain. Suddenly, while you're asleep, they'll absorb your minds, your memories, and you're reborn into an untroubled world.
Where everyone's the same?
Exactly.
What a world. We're not the last humans left. They'll destroy you.
Tomorrow you won't want them to. Tomorrow you'll be one of us.
I love Becky. Tomorrow will I feel the same?
There's no need for love.
No emotion. Then you have no feelings. Only the instinct to survive. You can't love or be loved, am I right?
You say it as if it were terrible. Believe me, it isn't. You've been in love before. It didn't last. It never does. Love, desire, ambition, faith. Without them, life's so simple, believe me.
I don't want any part of it.
You're forgetting something, Miles.
What's that?
You have no choice.
It is Tuesday, the 4th of March, 2014. My name's Paul, and he's not here. He's not here. I am on my own, the Unpenned Show, on my own, some lonesome. Andy's away this week. I've got some things to deal with, so I'm going to actually do the show entirely on my own, which is a first. It's been a long time since I've had to do that, and to be honest, I only found out that Andy was tied up and busy a little earlier, so it is literally unpenned and even unthought of, because how I normally do the shows, I start off the conversation, Andy links it all together, and whatever he says back to me gives me a reason to speak back to him. That becomes a conversation, and then we make a show out of it. But it doesn't stop me talking. It just feels a little bit unusual, because looking at these four walls on my own, it's a little bit different. But if you've heard me before, you know damn well I have no problem talking. So, we are live on the Awake Radio Network, on Blog Talk, and on Shaziz as well. Around the world, this technology just never ceases to amaze me. Every single week we can do this, and I am very pleased that we can. We don't do, or I'm saying we, because I've never used the word I for a long time. We, here we go again, I don't do shows now. I'm not on my own. I mean, I still say we, because it's still a Paul and Andy show, to be honest. But we don't do shows that discusses the news. Because we learned a long time ago now, really, that the news is the distraction, and the eternal chase for the truth is the very distraction itself. It drives you to distraction. It is a fruitless, pointless, absolutely ridiculous search. Because even if it's in there, you never truly know you've actually found it. And because of the wonders of Google, you can be challenged at any time. Because what you believe in this very moment, somebody can Google search it and find a challenge, and then you don't know. Because we live in a world where there's nothing to hold on to at all. And what there is to hold on to, it often floats off down the river when you think you've actually found dry land. So, to talk about the news is to discuss the theatre and the show that we're meant to talk about. And like every good boxing match, which is what we're involved in from day to day, the further back from the action that you sit, the more in the dark in the cheap seats you are. And the more money you have, you can afford the better seats. And this is only an analogy. It isn't really a money system, but it is a money system. The more money you have, the better seats or the better view you can get. And if you can afford the very good seats at the front, in fact, almost ringside, then you're not just a spectator or a watcher, but you actually become able to commentate. You can be the commentator because you can see exactly what's going on. And that's what we do with our news stories. We think we're sat closest to the action. We think that we know and we can see more details than others can. Now, this is a dangerous position to take as far as I can tell. And the reason is that how can, and this has not been unpleasant to anybody, I mean, take it or leave it, I don't mind. How can the very people, the poorest people, the people at the bottom of society, the people who have been thrown overboard a few years ago now, how can they claim to be the wisest of all? How can they claim to have this alternative view that makes so much sense on the news that we're being given? How can they say that you mustn't trust the press when all they do is read stories from it? Do you not realise that it's this distraction that stops you moving forwards? This is the very method of making you go around in circles. The very news cycle that you're involved in is the one that it's a whirlpool that's going to sink you, because all it ever does is tell you how much worse it's going to be. And if I go back through my Facebook page a couple of years ago and look at the stories that I was posting, it's the very same stories. They've got different headlines in a way, and they're from different newspapers, but they're all busy telling us how much worse it's going to be. And the movies do it as well, of course. Tonight's intro, the intro that I played tonight, was from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original 1956 version. In there, this is supposedly seeds from another part of the sky, another solar system, whatever. These seeds have been brought to us on the solar waves, and they've been brought down to Earth, and they land in a farmer's field. And these seeds grow into pods, and these pods are given to the people, and this is how they are duplicated, replicated into perfect, what we'd call today, robots or zombies, unfeeling, uncaring, unloving, unquestioning, servile beings. That's the 1956 version. Now, it was remade in 1978. And I'm wondering, can I actually find... Because I do have the 1978 clip as well, and that was made with Donald Sutherland. And if you hear the clip, and you can hear it, it'll be on the podcast tomorrow on YouTube. If you listen to it, it says about we'll no longer need to love, and we won't feel. There'll be an emotion. We'll have no emotions, and life is so much simpler. And is that where we're going? Is that the plan? Well, we can say it certainly looks like it is, but this is 1956. Remember, this is 58 years ago from where we are now, and this is where we're being duplicated by seeds from the sky that fall into a farmer's field, and we don't eat them in the 1956 version, but we do take them home, and while we sleep, they actually duplicate us. Now, in the 1978 version, it's a little bit different. Have a listen.
Why not, Jack?
I'm not coming from outer space, Nancy.
Why?
Well, what are you talking about? Space flower?
Well, why not a space flower? Why do we always expect metal ships?
I've never expected metal ships.
Look, there's bound to be other ways they can get into our systems.
That's right. They could be getting into us through touch or through their fragrance.
We would never even notice it. Not from the impurities that we have. I mean, we eat junk and we breathe junk.
Look, I don't know where they're coming from, but I feel as though I've been poisoned today. We've got to take those flowers in and have them analyzed. This is the only thing we know. There's something here.
Now, they could start getting into our systems and screwing up our genes like DNA. Recombining us, changing us. Of course, this is just the same way those rocket ships landed thousands of years ago so those spacemen could mate with monkeys and apes and create the human race. It's happening now.
Now, I think that's a very good clip to play, because that's the updated version, 22 years on, 56 to 78. You can see how the story changed a little bit. Still the seeds from the sky, but these are much more like organisms. When you watch the beginning or the opening title sequence of Invasion of the Body Snatchers 1978, the title sequence has organisms. They're actually like bioorganisms, like complicated structures that are flying on the solar winds again, and they enter our atmosphere and stick to the plants. Primarily, we see them sticking to the plants. And the ones that they make like a spider's web on the plants. Anyway, what happens is they still come in on the solar winds and they land on the plants. And the ones that land on the plants, they actually form their own flowers, and people are curious about these flowers. It's a type of flower they've never seen before. Some take it home. But the same method is still that you must go to sleep and a copy of you is being made while you sleep. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Because we've got 1956, 1978, which is, 36 years ago. And this is where a copy of you is being made while you're sleeping. And I don't think that really is a mistake, because the movies, I think, get given an idea of plot lines to go with. And they surely do go with these plot lines. And I think, to some extent, they're allowed a little bit of poetic license to fill in the gaps. Now, I know this Invasion of the Body Snatchers is... initially, it's from a book, but the two films, the two versions of the films, don't follow the same plot entirely. So it does show that there's a little bit of poetic license in there. Anyway, I think they're two interesting films. A lot of people say, don't watch the films, don't watch TV, throw it out the window. I don't subscribe to that point of view at all. If you do throw the TV out the window, how are you going to learn the tricks that you can learn from the television? We're controlled by magicians, and these people are magical technicians, and their job is to deceive us. Pretty much like you see, there's a guy called Dynamo, Magician Impossible, and he's all over the cheaper channels, I think. He's from Bradford, our part of the world. He seems a regular-looking sort of guy, but he does street magic that is actually impossible. He actually does street magic that isn't possible, alright? He puts one person's mobile phone into another person's bottle that they're drinking out of. He walks across the Thames. He freezes small ornate waterfalls. He claims and shows to do all these things. And this is where the magicians get really clever, because we know it's not possible, but our eyes tell us that it is possible. And now we've got a fight going on, because we cannot work out how the magic is actually done. We're looking at a TV screen, watching magic that we can't do and cannot be done, because otherwise we'd have to rewrite the entire laws of physics to do it. And still we watch it on TV and it looks real. And the best bit is he has an audience around him that appear to believe he's just done it as well. And this is magic, and how it's done, that we can't work it out. Are all those people around him actors? Okay, maybe. Is the film cut at some point, and is he given a bottle with a phone in at some point? Well, it must be that way, but we can't work out how. Because a bottle won't go into a phone, or a phone won't go in without there being trick props. So the actors wouldn't have to be all around him. The actors would just have to give him the phone and the bottle. Those are the two actors that would have to be there, and the rest could be members of the public. And if we can just go with that thought process, this is how this all works. Remember, even 2,000 years ago, when Plato was reorganising the world to suit him, and talking about how it could be done. It's not that different from today. And the start of the process to change a mind and to change a culture and to control society was always done through stories. And these stories, or the stories that were to be written by authorised poets and authors of the day. They were authorised and paid to write about the subjects that they were paid to write about. And we've got to understand that isn't different today. I know a writer who lives around about, what would it be, about 20 miles away from here, maybe 25 miles. I don't want to give too much away because these people wouldn't like me talking about what they do if I identified them. But I know somebody 25 miles from where I'm sat who is paid to write for the newspapers. These are editorials for the newspapers rather than news stories. These are, whole editorials about what if and maybe what. And he also gets paid to write books and scripts and essays on whatever he's paid to write about. And he does say that's what he's paid to do, but he doesn't go any further. He won't say what he's written or what he writes about or how much he gets paid. And I don't blame him either, because for those that understand his position in the control system, you would understand that he's paid to fool you. He's also a magician as well. All storytellers are magicians of some sort. And we love them. We actually love these stories. And the ones that fit with our reality are the ones that we actually want to believe. So we make them real by saying that we believe it. Very much like the Father Christmas story. Everybody who's older than us is aware of why the Father Christmas story exists. And they don't spoil it for the young people who believe it. We must see our world a little bit more like that. That those above us, they are smarter than we are. They are better rewarded than we are. And there's a reason for it. That's because we haven't chose to fit in with the control system and its methods of control. We chose to follow our own paths, follow our own desires, and try and make our own destiny. And the system says, go round ahead. But if you're going to push against us, we're going to push back. Because making your own way that isn't part of the system, we're going to make that more difficult for you. If you want to be in charge of your own income and who and what you say yes and no to, you've got that right. But we're not going to make it easy for you, because the education system is designed to make people for us. We're looking for the most studious, the most compliant, the ones with the best memories. That's who we want out of our system that we put you through. Our system of indoctrination is to find the best and brightest to serve our needs. And if you don't want to do that, then you're going to have to make your own way in life. And we do a lot of talking about how proud and how bold and how courageous we are to make our own way, and how we fight and push back to the system. But this is all bravado. This is all absolute bravado. The real truth is, if you don't work for the system, it's going to be your life's going to be an awful lot more difficult than if you did work for the system. The system is rewarding its servants far better than we can find to reward ourselves. We're all living in a time, especially here in the UK, and I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I can know for the UK. We're all living in a time where we're being made poorer. We're purposely being made poorer. It's not by happenstance. It's not by accident. It's by design. And you only have to take 10 minutes to realise it is by design. And while we're struggling at the bottom end, making a living from the surplus cash that people have left to spend on the things they want as opposed to the things they need, fish and chips isn't something that people need. Repairs and replacements for their homes is not something that people need. It's things that they want. And as the ability to want has been reduced in everybody's reality, you might want it, but your ability to achieve it is being, the goalposts are not being moved, they're being pushed further away. So it's not moving them that you miss them, it's moving them so far down the line that however hard you kick that can, you cannot score the goal, you cannot get there anymore. And the goal is being made much smaller. In other words, today's kids, they say they've achieved their goal when they've actually bought a branded item or a new gadget or a phone or that sort of thing. Their goals are relatively minor compared to what we saw as normal. and that was Houses, Cars and Holidays. Houses, Cars and Holidays are one of the girls who works for me. I asked her, how many of your friends in your school year, and she's 20, 21 this time, how many of your friends drive? And she said 30 to 40%. So that's 60% that don't drive. And I said, how many of the ones that don't drive do you think are going to learn to drive? And she said, hardly any of them, because they don't want to. And I said, well, you should be running a taxi service for your pals. And she says, I do, but they want it cheaper than the taxis that they can get off the marketplace. So she says, I can't win there either. What I'm saying is, our desires and our wants have been changed. And because we want to achieve in life, we make our goals easy to achieve, so we think we've been successful. And the houses and the cars and the holidays, well, they'll just have to be put on hold. And we'll have to find somebody. And of course, you can see the girls at the lower end. The girls at the lower end are decorating themselves so well nowadays. And all they're after is a guy with some money. That's all they're after. They're looking for a guy who's got some money to make their dream of being a princess true. Not all of them, but if somebody wants to tell me that women aren't programmed to find a provider, and so not a good father, and a provider and a security type home for them. Women are programmed to find that, and we can't deprogram them for it. And they're just more forward nowadays, and that is that how much money you've got, and that'll decide whether the relationship is of any value to the girl. I mean, you can see it in today's modern society, and that is that the more money that a guy has, the younger the girlfriend happens to be. And that's just how it works. It just does. It's maybe not true in all cases, and it's maybe not right, but that is what happens.
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you got to be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that. Until you start believing in yourself, you ain't going to have a life.
This is what I claim to be the problem. It is 9:29. It is Tuesday the 4th of March 2014, and we're live around the world. I keep saying we because my partner in crime isn't here this evening. Okay, he's something else he's got to get busy with, so I'm sat on my own for the first time in a long time. So I'm probably going to keep saying we because I can't just change the we to I. It's just not in my head to say that. So it's going to take me some time I'll just say it all night and be done with it. What I was saying was that we're making weaker people. And the word langua is the word weak, and we speak it. The word langua is the word weak, and we put langua and age together, and we're making ourselves weak. The meek will not inherit the earth. This is a fallacy. The strong, the courageous, and... Hang on a second. My computer's just done its own thing. It's just gone nuts. Let's get rid of that. Right, okay. The poem that I wanted to read to you there has quite upset me there. My internet's just disappeared completely off that computer, but we're still working on the other one. So it just said no Java detected and just shut down, believe it or not. Let's see if every other process is working. There is on my Facebook page a 14-year-old boy has written a poem, and I can't read it to you. I can't actually get my internet to work on here, believe it or not. I'm not quite sure why. Let's see if I can get it going now. Here we go. It seems to have recovered. Just died. This is the Mac as well. Don't let me down, Mac. You're pretty good. You're pretty good usually. Let's see if we can get this poem back up. It's a 14-year-old boy who's wrote this poem. It's on my Facebook page. It will be below the show. This is obviously live around the world. That's what you listen to. All the clips and the music is inclusive. When we do the YouTube video, the music will be taken out, and because YouTube are quite particular about what we can and can't play. So let's read this This poem from a 14-year-old boy. And I want you to think of his mindset when he writes this. And think of his mindset, what the world is showing him, and why he has written this. Because I'm not going to read it in a soulful way, so I'm trying to make you really upset. But listen to what he's written. Our generation will be known for nothing. Never will anybody say we were the peak of mankind. That is wrong. The truth is, our generation was a failure. Thinking that we actually succeeded is a waste, and we know. Living only for money and power is the way to go. Being loving, respectful and kind is a dumb thing to do. Forgetting about that time will not be easy, but we will try. Changing our world for the better is something we never did. Giving up was how we handled our problems. Working hard was a joke. We knew that. People thought we couldn't come back, and that might be true, unless we turn things around. Now, you heard me read that poem, and now I'm going to actually flip the poem and read it to you again. So now this is what's happening here is my computer wants to download a Java update, and he's been a real pain in the neck because it won't let me do what I want to do. But if I read that poem upside down, in other words, I read the bottom line first, you'll see that it makes sense as well. So my computer keeps crashing because it's determined it wants me to do an update, and I can't do the update in the middle of the show because I've got to change out of the administrator setting that I'm in and do it that way. No, it's not going to let me do it after all that. Go to my Facebook page and read it. We're making weak people, and these weak people, they don't have the fight left in them. It's been going on for some time. It's been going on my entire life. I'm not as strong and courageous as my mum was. And I can speak for my grandma. And they were hardy people. They lived tough lives. And towards the end of the days, you know, the faces looked as if they'd had a hard life. We used to say, gosh, you've had a hard life, a tough paper around, that sort of thing. We used to have that in our vocabulary because old people looked blooming exhausted. They actually looked old. And that's because they'd had to really strive to have what it was they wanted. If we look at the people today of 60 and 65 and 70 and 75, let's be honest with ourselves. They look all right, don't they? They actually don't look as old as our memories recall they used to look. We used to know when somebody was 65 and 70 and 75, but now we can't tell. And it's better food and it's better health care and it's better. Is it really? I don't know. I don't believe that's completely true. I actually think that our lives are easier than they've ever been. I actually think that we spend too much time complaining about our little lot when we should actually be accepting that we now live in an obvious two-tier economy. And by a two-tier economy, what I mean is the internet, and you know this is true, the internet is taking more and more and more business from the real world into the Internet of Things. And as that money gets sucked into the new economy, it leaves a lot less for the old-fashioned economy. So you're either if you can transfer your business online and benefit from online, then you're part of the new system. If you can't, you're not part of it. So there's less money to go around for the people at the bottom. This technological break is not going to be repaired anytime soon. The internet will be the only way of doing business, and when they go cashless, the grey economy that is propping up this entire society will be over. And I don't know when that day's coming. I suspect we've got a little while to go yet. It'll be when we'll actually accept it. Because this is a system that wants the most efficient they want it to be the most efficient we can possibly be. And they are going to strive to get there. They believe that creation has been handed to them, and they are going to use it. And they're going to use it however they see fit. And that means us, because they have created us. We can kid ourselves But we're only kidding ourselves. And to kid yourself is to be childish, is to make yourself look like a child. It's to believe in fairy stories. We didn't create any part of what we are until we accept we've been created by others. We've not learnt anything new that wasn't told us by somebody else until we accept that we haven't learnt anything new and that hasn't been told to us by somebody else. As the economy changes, the dinosaurs get stuck. They become isolated. They don't know what to do. They can't. Well, they have grown wings and learned to fly in history. That's how evolution worked for them. And we need to learn a little bit from that. Because the people at the bottom, the ones that have lost, the ones that have refused to take part, the ones that wanted to do their own thing, they've been successful in the past, but the new economy doesn't support what they've got to offer. The new economy is an economy built on dreams. And the reason why it needs to be built on dreams, I read the poem to you, you realise what the problem is. The problem is that the kids have given up. So all they can sell and all they can buy into is dreams. The internet is the animation of the persona. It is the I can be who I want to be and I can say and do what I want to do on the internet safely. Okay, I'm very, very safe to be able to do that here. I can be more than I ever going to be. I can buy my Google Glass. I can be at the very cutting edge of technology, and I can benefit from it. These are all dreams. These are all dreams. Everything you do, you're giving into the system. The system will know what you want to do, where you're going to go, and what you're going to buy before you even know it. It will know you better than yourself. How will it know you better than yourself? Because you're telling it everything about yourself. We think we're complicated beings, and the only reason we're complicated beings is because of the lies that we tell. We tell lies. We tell lies, and the reason we tell lies is, first of all, to hide a crime. Second is because of desire. And third is really simple, because we will benefit financially. Those are the reasons we tell lies. A 3-year-old, statistically a 3-year-old, cannot lie. You ask a 3-year-old if they've done something they shouldn't, and they'll look down and say, yeah, I did. But then you try and ask a 4-year-old. And a 4-year-old, in that 12-month period of development, a 4-year-old has learned to lie. He will now look at you and lie. And he'll be a bit shifty about it, and he won't stare you in the eye, because he hasn't got that confidence yet. But he's prepared to try the lie. He's prepared to try and see how it goes. What is it in life that tells us a 3-year-old can't lie and a 4-year-old can lie? Well, it must be the process of development, and it must all be the electronic babysitter. It's the electronic babysitter that is bringing up our children, and we don't choose to recognise that. Now, I've been watching cartoons on purpose over the past sort of month or so. Not lots of them, but when I get a minute, I've been watching like Charlie and Lola, Peppa Pig. These were DVDs that I played for my little girl when she was younger. And then I look at some of the adult cartoons, Family Guy, South Park, American Dad. Now, particularly South Park is perverted and sick. It's uncomfortable what they're prepared to put on TV. And I believe South Park is on at 6 o'clock on Channel 4. Most nights. Now, I know it's meant to be adult entertainment, and I realise it's designed for adult entertainment, so why is it on at 6 o'clock in the evening? Why is South Park perceived to be an adult's programme, and yet on at children's viewing times? Now, I know South Park is a little bit, it's an older version of, there's probably lots of new stuff now that I'm not, because I haven't got a little girl now, she's growing up and she's not into cartoons. There'll be new versions of what I'm saying to you now. But the electronic babysitter is what is teaching our children to be who they are. And we confuse kids because we fib to them about Father Christmas, the Tooth Fairies, and every other story you want to tell them. We fib to them. And we justify it because our parents did it to us, and it's all part of a childhood. And that's absolutely true. It is all part of a childhood, if you choose to do that. But at some point, you've got to tell the kid why you lied to them. You can't just let the kid discover. You actually have to tell them why you told them the story about fairies and Father Christmas and whatever else you've made up. you do have to say that was something that my mum told me about. My mum and dad read me books, and because they wanted to develop my imagination and they wanted me to be able to use my imagination to create my own stories, they gave me things to dream about. So I learned to be a good storyteller. And because I couldn't see these things, I had to imagine them, and I had to imagine what they looked like, and I had to imagine how they'd think, and I had to imagine the things they'd get up to. And that allowed me to be a really good storyteller, because I had to make it all up in my head. That's why I was told these stories while I was young. But you've got to tell them at 7, 8, 9 years old. Otherwise, you've not completed the reason why. And most parents don't do that. Most parents don't even know that's what they should have done with the children. That's how they should have completed the story. Anyway, I'm getting on my high horse now. Back to the kids of the future. And if we don't invest in our kids, if we don't show the kids the way forward, if we don't overcome the hurdles that are put in front of us, then we're showing them to give up. We're showing them to be defeated. We're showing them that you can't win all the time. Well, it depends what you want to do. I mean, this system leaves you able to learn something new whenever you want to learn something new. I'm actually looking into doing something myself this year, but I'll share it with everybody once I've decided which way I'm going with that one. And that is, and I know you might laugh at me here, you might say, oh, right, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're pleased for me, because what I'm going to do is, I am going to go and get a degree. I decided that I want to get a degree in something that I'm interested in. What am I going to do it for? I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for me. Will it be? Will I be able to use it financially in the future? Probably not. Will it be beneficial to me in the way I live and the way I think? That's why I'm doing it. That's the idea of why I'm doing it. If I keep doing the same thing, mixing with the same people, and saying the same stuff, how can I expect ever to move along? If I keep shouting and bawling at a world that I'm finding hard to fit in, well, the world doesn't care about me not being able to fit in. It says, go find your own tribe. If you don't want to join this tribe, that's fantastic. Go find your own. I just want to see how smart I really am. I want to go learn and get a degree in something that I'm really interested in. And that will be something new for me. Now, that's 3 to 4 years of study. But I want to do it. Why do I want to do it? Because I want to do it. Because I'm not done doing stuff. Because I'm not done being me. I'm not done making the version that I can of me. I can sit and do these shows every week, and I do sit and do them every week. But do I find I'm learning anything from them? The answer is now, no. Not really, I'm not, no. I'm actually learning that this is the station that I've been at for a while, and I'm not talking about Awake or Shazizz or Blog Talk. I've stopped here. I've been stopped here for about 1.5 years at the internet radio station Stop, and I've come to the conclusion I've learned all I can. And what I've actually learned, it's not been pretty, but it has been absolutely invaluable. And I'll tell you what I've learned when I get back.
But he left one final warning.
1984 is, I believe, a quite terrifying masterpiece. So terrifying, in fact, I don't think I should like to read another like it.
I am not absolutely dissatisfied with it. I think it is a good idea, but the execution would have been better if I had not been under the influence of TB when I wrote it.
You once claimed that you have an ability to face unpleasant facts. Is that what you've demonstrated in 1984 by drawing an accurate portrait of the future?
I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
I don't think we can actually argue that that message is... It couldn't be clearer, could it? It is 9:49, Tuesday, the 4th of March 2014. I'm not going to go on for too much longer. As I say, I was expecting Andy's company. He's a little bit tied up this evening. We'll catch up and get back to you sort of next week or maybe the week after. I don't quite know yet. I don't need to go into detail. He's not here, and I'm not quite sure if we'll be able to do a show next week or not, and that'll do for the information that I'm giving out on that one. But back to the George Orwell situation. We have been given information, unending amounts of information, and we almost revel in telling people how much worse it's going to get. And in the early days, we often wonder, the news cannot be actually genuine because they wouldn't tell us. If it was, it doesn't make sense that it would tell us. And then as you go down this road, you realise that telling us is part of the whole system of how and why it works. And then you realise that, well, if they tell us we could do something about it, why don't we? And this leads to a form of madness in the early days. And then you get over that bit. And you start to look around, and you get to the invasion of the body snatchers type look on life. And this is a very uncomfortable view that we now have on life. And I'll tell you what it is, and I'm suffering from it. I know Andy's suffering from it. And that is that we look around and we see dead people. But they don't know they're dead. And the only way that you can really see that deadness, it's in the eyes. The only internal part of our bodies on show are our eyes, because they're connected to the brain. The windows to the soul have been called. The very truth is in them eyes. Your mouth can smile, but your eyes don't always go with it. When your mouth and your eyes smile together, it's a genuine smile. But when just your mouth's smiling, think of the fake Gordon Brown smiles that you've seen over the years. Think of how he was laughed at because he couldn't even smile properly, and it was so obviously fake. Look up at an image of that on the internet and see for yourself how fake his smile looks, and then look closely around where you live and who you talk to, because you're going to see it, because it's almost a smirk. It's not quite a smile. The two things can be mixed up terribly. Everybody that we come into contact with, in some part, knows how the world works. And we fool ourselves that we know exactly how the world works. We don't, which is why we mix with the people who have got the least. Within the alternative news movement, you do hear a never-ending plea for money. And these people want money. And the reason they want money is because they want to spend the time learning stuff that you don't know, and they want you to pay them for it. Now, there's nothing wrong in that at all. That's been going on. That's what goes on in universities. You can go to the library and teach your darn self. But you don't have the self-control to make yourself do that. So you'd rather pay somebody else to actually provide you with the information and then give you the test so you can regurgitate the information and get the bit of paper at the end. And you'll say to yourself, yeah, but Paul, you're going to do that. You've said that you're going to get a degree. Yeah, I am. Yep, I am. And it's not if you cannot beat them, join them. But I don't think you can beat them if you're not part of it. And I do know one thing for sure. If you've got no money left, you can talk a good game. But that's all you can do. Because your number one priority will be on milking your listeners. Everywhere I look at people saying, we need money. This is really expensive. I need money to do this. No, they don't. They need money so they can do it. They don't need money to do it. They need money so they can do it. And they've got every right to ask you for it. But while you're giving it to them, you're not learning it for yourself. Because the difference between learning and listening is the two words aren't the same. You can't know anything if somebody else has told you. You can only repeat it because somebody else has told you. The 5 senses that you're aware of, we've got 6, 7 and 8, and we've spoke about these before. The 6th is common sense, where you just know something is wrong, or right as it may be. The 7th is it's a feeling. It is emotion, but it's more of a feeling. And it's the emotion is the feeling, if you see what I mean. And the emotion can change, but the feeling is what you're looking at. And the last one is knowing. You actually know. You look at somebody and you know. You actually get to know if they're telling you lies or try to tell you a truth. You just get the hang of it in the end. We've been around this stuff 4 or 5 years now, really getting involved in it. And I can actually tell you that things are not as good now as they were 4 or 5 years ago. There are less people involved than there were 4 or 5 years ago. And there's less intelligence involved here than there was 4 or 5 years ago. We now are being drowned in an information cycle where I don't think we're ever going to get out of it. And the reason why I say that is because this is called a net. And I don't think people want to get out of it. The people we mix with have got no money and very few skills. And that's their choice. But it's not mine. I don't choose to live that way. I don't want to live that way. And I'm going to actually make sure I bloody well don't. The world says, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Well, I do think I am. And I'm going to have a go. And I'm not going to give up. If a wall's put in front of me and I think it's too big to climb, I've got to stand back and I've got to learn to grow so I can get over it. I don't want to look in the mirror and say, fuck it, I can't be bothered. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not having it. This does challenge you, and it never stops wanting you to go back to sleep. It always says, oh, come on, it's all right. You can go back to sleep if you want to. And it's absolutely right, you can. Of course you can. But it's not for me. It's not for me, I'm not having it. An early finish. Things I need to deal with, and stuff I want to get on with. It is a little early. My name's Paul. It has been Tuesday the 4th of March 2014. My thanks to all the guys and girls on Awake and Shazizz. Thanks for listening on Blog Talk. It has been a bit of a rush, not very well prepared. I'll be much more sorted next week. Thanks again once for listening. YouTube edit, my Facebook, Andy's Facebook, and Phil's Facebook, all below this YouTube edit. Thanks very much for listening. See you next week, everybody.